Okay, so again, guys, welcome back to. We're going to be doing a IEM Katowice 2021 Overexplained YouTube series. We're going to be looking at Game 3 Reynor versus Zest, CVP on Death Aura, in the finals of this tournament. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube and check out my Twitch at twitch.tv/arcanesty2. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to be taking a look again at PvZ on this map, trying to see what Zest is seeing, what his decisions are, and what we can get an idea for our own gameplay in Starcraft 2. So let's see, he does go for that fast pylon, or that fast probe scout once more, that hatchery block fast probe scout to keep him safe from any 12 pulls. So he sends it out immediately, basically as soon as the game starts. Then he goes for the 14 pylon. Does opt to keep the probe there to build the gateway without having it rally over from the Nexus, so he builds immediately. Chrono boost as soon as the pylon is finished. A gateway at 16. $17 gas. Superpower does end up putting down the hatchery at the third base location. Protoss is rallying to the gas geyser once minerals have been saturated. Does opt to ride the 19 probe down to the natural to make the 20 nexus. Now is when the Protoss will cut probes to make the 20 cyber core. Okay. Resume probe production. 21. He should be getting a gas geyser. There it is. $22 pylon. Pretty standard play from here. Nothing crazy. He's just playing normal PvZ for now. This is your standard macro opener in PvZ. So he chrono boosts his Nexus. Let's take a look again. So again, this is re-clarify. He does chrono boost as soon as the second gas geyser finishes up. And this chrono boost does not line up with this pylon finishing. It does. But in other words, the chrono boost does not happen when this pylon reaches completion. It actually starts when this gas geyser reaches completion, which is, it lines up perfectly, actually. So we'll see the gas geyser is finished around 208, I guess. Yeah, 208. He does start another chrono boost. This is going to be the second chrono boost on his Nexus. So he's going to be rallying his 23rd probe. The 23rd probe gets rallied to make the Stargate. Interestingly enough, he does opt to get Warp Gate research this time around. He might cancel that, we'll see, to make the Stargate. Or he might go with Twilight. It does. Okay, so there he goes. He does cancel the Warp Gate to make the Stargate. He does pull one probe from the mineral line to go to the second gas geyser. When this gas geyser is at 2 out of 3, he does pull one from the mineral line here. And then he goes to 15 out of 16 workers on the mineral line saturation. And then he resaturates the minerals. This is important because it gives you that little bit of extra gas needed to make any void rays or oracles. Then he restarts his warp gate research at 50. So the probe's coming home. Let's take a look at when the probe does come home. How long does the probe linger for? Usually the Zerglings are out by around 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So that's around the time that you're going to consider pulling your probe back home. Of course, it does vary based on any 12 pulls or anything, of course. But based on the standard macro PvZ, around 220 is a good time to be worried about Zerglings popping out and killing you. So let's take a look at when the probe does end up coming home. Around 220, yes. Probe is being sent back home. So when this Nexus finishes, we have 2 additional Chrono Boosts we can use. So one thing that players can opt to do is either go for the double Chrono Boost and the economy side to get mass probes, or they can save the Chrono Boost to use on the Stargate for the Void Ray. Most players, I think these days, are going to be saving it for the Stargate, but we use hybrid style here. We have 1 Chrono Boost being used on the Natural Nexus for Zest, and looks like he's going to be saving that 1 Chrono Boost on his Nexus that's available for the Stargate Void Ray. So as soon as this adept pops out, he does go ahead and shades out. Now this shade's pretty important because it's allowing the Protoss player to know, okay, are there any Zerglings running toward my base? And if so, how many are coming? If it's only 2 or 4 Zerglings, that's fine. You don't need to panic. That's not a big deal. But if you see 6 or more, that means you need to either most likely wall up and keep your depth back and maybe drop down a shield battery here, because that means committed pressure. So this is just a nice little extra APM tactic that you can do to see if the Zerg player is being aggressive. Never commits with that shade, though. You have to remember to cancel that. You never want to accidentally shade out and die. Alright, so now we have that Void Ray finished, or getting started, rather, at Stargate completion. We will be seeing that Chrono Boost being used on the Stargate here, followed by a 3-minute and 4-second 39 supply pylon. So basically, as soon as that Stargate unit gets started, we're considering getting a pylon down. So pro production is continuous at this point. We're at 31. We do have a second adept, and then that second gateway coming down. We have a second Chrono Boost on the Stargate after the first unit comes out. In this case, it's going on the Oracle. So we have another Chrono Boost as well coming at our Natural Nexus. We'll see where that goes, if it goes to the economy or on the Stargate once more. Looking around for some Overlords with the Scouting Void Ray. Denying any vision of the third base. And getting another Pylon to protect the depth after third base. There's the Overlord scouting for that third base. He will be taken out by the Void Ray. Getting gas number 3 and 4 at the Natural Nexus. And there's Zerg Scouting Overlord to see what's up in the base. That'll be taken out as well by the Void Ray. He goes for double Void Ray here as a follow-up. Queens are in position, can't get much done with the Oracle from that angle. He's looking for that Overlord that was scouting his base in the southwest side of the map here. Adding a Twilight Council around 440 and a Forge. Usually Twilight and Forge go down simultaneously. So every time you think about Twilight Council, you can consider getting the Forge in this matchup, because +1 and charge are started simultaneously as well. Shield battery added to the third. Another Void Ray is coming out of the Stargate here. So we're looking at 2 Void Rays and an Oracle at this point. So we are using some Chrono Boost on economy at this point. On the third base Nexus. So basically, as soon as the Nexus finishes, he's using the Chrono Boost on that Nexus for probes. Scouting with the Oracle to see, okay, what tactic we have here. Does see Roach Warren at the natural base here. Gives a sign that, okay, you are on at least Roach Tech, potentially here. Another couple of Void Rays coming out. We do see Queens on the map. These could be a Queen committed push, or it could be a fake. We don't have Revelation on them yet. A bunch more pylons coming down here. Let's take a look. We have so far 4 Void Rays. We are queuing up +1 in charge, or started simultaneously. Around 6 minutes and 3, we are getting that Robo facility. Usually the Robo comes down after the Temple Archives started. This case is coming down before the Temple Archives started. So Zerg player, he does see the Infestation Pit starting. So he knows, okay, Zerg wants to be going up to Hive. And play that long macro game. It is not going to be an all-in. So the move out with the Queens was kind of a fake. Temple Archives going down. Additional Gateway Flood right now. We're on the 3rd base timing. We're going to about, maybe about 8 to 10 gates here. Protoss taking a 4th around 7 minutes.
Research complete.
He's opting for that War Prism as well. How many observers does he have on the map? The answer is none right now. Does not have any. So the War Prism will be the first unit out of the Robo. He is getting Storm now and some Archons. I believe that's gateways 9, 10, and 11.
Upgrade complete.
Doesn't really matter.
Warriors have engaged the enemy.
And either way, if you have around 10 to 12 gates, around 4 bases, that's perfectly fine. And these gates are also going to be used as a walling mechanism, rather than just production alone. So it's okay. So he does add a bunch of gateways. We'll take a look at the exact number here for those that are curious. But it doesn't really matter too much because, again, you're not going to necessarily be warping in consistently, simultaneously with these. So it looks like it is about 10 gateways now. I'm not miscounting. 10 gateways. Yep. So 10 to 12 is what you would expect for 4 bases. Does opt to go for the Fleet Beacon now. He is also starting +2 attack. Much more in line for what we were expecting the matchup. +1 armor is a little bit weird from last game. The +2 weapons makes more sense. Bunch of cannons and shield batters at the 4th base, unlike the previous game. So he is going to be prepared for any attacks at the 4th. It won't just be an instant win for Zerg if they do attack. So Protoss is doing a very good job right now. He does see Hydra Tech as well. He does know that Zerg is on 4 bases at the moment. Since the Protoss did scout that the Zerg player is on Hydra Tech, there's also the possibility of Lurker Tech. So Lurkers do come from Hydralisks, of course.
I return to serve.
Is Chrono boosting out a bunch of Immortals and upgrades.
Mineral field depleted.
Hey, Ed first in chat. How's it going, bud?
My life for iron. We cannot hold.
Seeing some storm being dropped on top of the Zerg army. We have a good revelation revealing all that's down here. We do see a bunch of committed Zerg pressure. A lot of queens out here. How many queens do we have? We have 12 queens on the map with this army. And this is a still pretty scary army to deal with. He does have the tools of Storm, but Storm is not very good against Lurkers. It does take many Storms to kill the Lurker. And the carriers are a little bit late. He did have the Fleet Beacon a little bit ago. Where are the Void Rays? I think the Void Rays are somewhere. He does have 6 Void Rays. Oh, I see. He walled himself out here. Accidentally. So he accidentally walled himself out here. That was a bit of a mistake. So he wants to reposition and come around this way. I see what happened here. So he did do a full wall off. This actually ends up hurting him, as you can tell. This is actually really bad.
Our pylon is under attack.
I think he forgot about this one. So what he needs here, besides the overcharge, he needs to have the buffer of Archons. And the best way to deal with the Lurkers are actually the Void Rays, with the Void Rays using the Prismatic Alignment. But at the same time, he needs to be storming the Hydralisks and the Queens to prevent the Void Rays from just melting. He's still in an okay position, I feel.
We embrace the glory of battle.
So the shield battery here is about to run out. of the supercharge. He does lose a bunch of Templars and Lurkers. I know that feeling. As a Protoss player myself, this is not great. This is kind of scary. He needs to have more air and pop out. He probably needs to give up this location.
We embrace the glory of battle.
He's trying. It's not a good fight for Protoss regardless. If he comes out okay, it's still a very bad fight for Protoss. So Protoss loses the 4th base. Protoss leaves. Yeah, so it wasn't a good fight for him. Even if he managed to somehow clean up this army, which he doesn't. Protoss has lost not only his 4th base, a lot of units, he lost his entirety of his sky units. He's got like 1 carrier with half hit points and maybe 1 void ray that was patrolling it when it was not in the fight. But it loses the bulk of his air force. And this is going to be something that you can't really reproduce. These carriers even take a long time. It takes 64 seconds just to come out of the Stargate, and an additional like 30 seconds to make the interceptors. So it takes about 94 seconds just to get 1 carrier. This is not something that you can get while a fight is ongoing, and especially into the mid-game for Protoss. Let's take a quick look at the engagement again, see if what else could have happened, just as a quick cover here. So this is basically when the fight was first starting. We see that the Zerg is pushing out here. He does have a lot of queens. He's got about 12 queens. He's got, how many Hydralisks? He has 11 Hydralisks, 17 Roaches, 10 Lurkers, and 5 Zerglings. So he has good vision here. He is able to see all of these Lurkers. Honestly, I think that this fight could have gone very well for Zest. I mean, of course, this is all in hindsight, right? So, of course, he doesn't have the opportunity to do this like I do and nitpick about what's happening, but he doesn't really know. Maybe if he had some vision down here and he didn't see any like mass Zerglings or swarming, coming around here and doing a flank with the Zealots and the Archons would be great. So any warp-ins, like if these Zealots were not here, and if they were like down here, coming around here would have been great. Anytime you can get surface area, it's all about surface area against Lurkers. If you can fight Lurkers away from this choke, you're doing fine. So if you have an engagement over here, if you have an engagement over here, and an engagement over here, any one of these, pick 2 of these 4 corners, and you're doing fine. If you engage the Lurkers in a spot only like this, that's choked up, you're going to have a hard time. And the Zerg is just going to sit over there. The main reason, not besides the fact that it's choked up and going to be doing massive splash damage, that's only one facet of the problem. The other part of the problem is the fact that it gives the Hydralisks only 1 area to sit, and the Queens only 1 area to sit, and ward away any of your threats. Ward away any storm, ward away any air, void rays and carriers. You need to actually be engaging from multiple areas so that the Hydralisks and Queens can't just be babysitting the Lurkers on 1 point and then just, A-moving and sitting there and having a good time of their life. So you really need to have a flank.
We embrace under attack. I like what I...
Yeah, so just didn't do that, unfortunately.
has arrived.
So one thing that we see here is this was activated a little bit too soon. It's hard to tell because either you don't activate it and then you lose it, or you activate it too soon and it doesn't really get any value, right? So it's hard to say. Of course, it's really easy to run away when it gets activated. However, generally speaking, you want to activate it, generally speaking, when you are already engaged and you have sustained some committed damage. Let's say your void rays have lost some of their shields already. You are this Zerg is on A command, you're on A command, and they're both attacking each other. And the void rays ideally are positioned at the maximum range from the shield battery facing the Zerg's opposition. So in other words, instead of being here, the void rays ideally should be here. And so this Hydras get pushed back. And they're going to get pushed back anyways. The reason why they're going to get pushed back anyways is because there's no Lurker support in this area. If the Hydralisks are up here, the Lurkers can't shoot over here. So if the storm can come down over here, the immortals can sit here and use storm, or excuse me, immortals can come over here and just attack. The void rays can just sit over here and attack. The lurkers and queens are not doing anything. The hydras need to pull back so that the lurkers and queens can contribute to the fight. When that happens, that's when this bulk of the Protoss army needs to advance, seize this position, and then use the shield battery at its maximum range to leverage A, the shield battery not dying, and B, the actual utility of having the shield battery replenish shields. Because at this point is where the hydras will no longer retreat and will now commit to the attack because the lurkers are in this position and they're not going to unburrow. And if these lurkers do unburrow, then that's going to be a stall out for the Protoss in the Protoss's favor. Gives them more time for the carriers to come out and gives some more time for subsequent warpins, etc., etc. So that would be a win. So ideally, again, what you need to do is be at maximum range from the shield battery toward the Zerg, towards the opposition of the lurkers. Activate that shield battery, and therefore get your other guys, your Templar in position to take advantage of that fight. But it's very scary. Lurkers are always a pain in the ass to deal with. I lose the lurkers all the time, so I don't blame them. This is a very scary army. Good storms. But the problem with Storm is that with the queens here, he has a lot of healing, right? So look at the healing here. The transfusion immediately heals for 75 life. That basically negates an entire storm. If you take a look at the storm here, we'll see that the storm does 80 damage over 3 seconds. This does 75 damage immediately. So any unit can immediately get healed up, and none of these units have less than 80 hit points. So what this means is that no unit will die to storm ever, unless it was not at maximum hit points. If the Roach, for example, was at 11 hit points and was not used, and did not have transfusion used on it, then it would die. But any unit at maximum hit points, the Lurkers at 200, Hydralisks are at 90, Queens are at 175, no unit should die to a storm, and storms do not stack. So the Zerg player does have an advantage here to use these transfusions when they have the Queens with them, to kind of keep these guys alive and buffer them. This is the problem that the storm has. And this is the reason why the army kind of needs to be here, but if the army's here, obviously the lurkers here as well.
We embrace glory. I return to serve.
Really great storms, though.
Our pylon is under attack.
The storms are really good.
I return to serve.
It's barely not enough, though. So this is ideally when you want to be using that shield battery overcharge, or even a little bit before this.
I return to serve.
Yeah.
I like for iron.
Unfortunately, he lost all the Templar, so without Storm, he has no way to... I mean, he has no way to contest the Queens. He has no interceptors on the carrier. So the carrier does 0 damage, 0 DPS at this point. The Wood Rays, just, they don't do anything with the Queens here.
I like for iron.
The Zealots don't do anything with the Lurkers. Look how little damage these Wood Rays are doing to these Queens.
We embrace.
So this is the right idea, using Zealot flanks. Unfortunately, it came a little too late. Ideally, the Zealot flank would have happened before he lost the integrity of his army. Before he lost all the Templar and his Void Rays. That's when this flank needed to happen. Right now, it's just a little too late. But this is the right play. The reason why the flank is very good isn't necessarily to kill units. The Zealot flank is good because it redirects the fire of the Queens, it redirects the fire of the Lurkers. So instead of firing the Lurker spines this way, the Lurkers are now firing this way. Furthermore, the Zealots are pretty resilient to an extent, not really, but to the Lurker spines since they're not armored. But they are also good because they can allow the spines, the way that the Zealots flank with the charge, they don't line up together in a straight line. So the Zealots will be getting hit by the spines. Usually only 1 or 2 Zealots will be getting hit. The other couple of Zealots will not get hit by that. So it'll take a couple of spines shots for the Lurkers to kill the Zealot flank. So that's the reason why the flank is very good for the Protoss. Again, it's not about killing. It's mostly about redirecting.
We embrace the glory of battle. I like for iron.
Carriers are a joke in this case. If you have like anything under like 4 carriers is a joke. It does 0 damage. Literally.
My life for iron.
And GG. Yeah. Alright, let's go on to the next game.